Today in Music History. Presented by Classic Rock A to Z. For April 20th.
When she touched my hand, oh, what a chill I got. Her lips are like a volcano and it's hot. I'm proud to say that
On this day in 1957, Elvis Presley started an 8-week run at #1 on the US singles chart with All Shook Up. It went on to be the biggest single of 1957, selling over 2 million copies. In 1959, Goldband Records released Puppy Love by a 13-year-old Dolly Parton in the US. The song was recorded 2 years earlier when she was just 11 years old. 1966, during a 12-hour session at Abbey Road Studios in London, the Beatles worked on a new George Harrison song, Taxman, as well as a new John Lennon song, And Your Bird Can Sing. 1968, Deep Purple made their live debut at a gig in Tustrup, Denmark. Formerly known as Roundabout, guitarist Ritchie Blackmore suggested a new name, Deep Purple, named after his grandmother's favorite song, which had been a hit for Peter DeRose, after his grandmother had repeatedly asked if they would be performing the song.
listen, baby, ain't no mountain.
1969, session drummer Benny Benjamin died. Benny was one of the Funk Brothers. He also played on many Tamla Motown hits, including The Four Tops, The Temptations, Marvin Gaye, The Supremes, and Stevie Wonder. The film, Standing in the Shadows of Motown, released in 2003, features his work.
To the end, and I wish I...
In 1980, 84-year-old George Burns, who starred in the movie, Oh God, with John Denver, became the oldest person to have a hit on the Billboard Hot 100, when I Wish I Was 18 Again peaked at number 49. When asked if he wished he were 18 again, Burns replied, I wish I was 80 again. Before this, his most recent charting record had been a spoken word comedy routine with his wife and partner, Gracie Allen, in the summer of 1933. 1981, John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas was jailed for 5 years after pleading guilty to drug possession charges. The sentence was suspended after 30 days. Phillips started touring the US, lecturing against the dangers of taking drugs. 1985, the charity record, We Are the World, by USA for Africa, was at #1 on the UK singles chart. The US artists' answer to Band Aid had an all-star cast including Stevie Wonder, Tina Turner, Bruce Springsteen, Diana Ross, Bob Dylan, Daryl Hall, Huey Lewis, Ray Charles, Billy Joel, and Paul Simon, plus the composers of the track, Michael Jackson, and Lionel Richie.
It's all too beautiful.
On this day in 1991, Steve Marriott, leader of Small Faces and Humble Pie, died in a fire at his home in Essex. His work became a major influence for many 90s bands. Small Faces had the 1967 UK #3 and US #16 single, Itchycoo Park, plus 1968 #1 UK album, Ogden's Nut Gone Flake, and the Humble Pie 1969 UK #4 single, Natural Born Boogie. As a child actor, he played parts in Dixon of Dock Green, and The Artful Dodger, in Oliver. In 1992, a concert for life took place at Wembley Stadium as a tribute to Queen singer Freddie Mercury, and for AIDS awareness. Acts appearing included Elton John, Roger Daltrey, Tony Iommi, David Bowie, Mick Ronson, James Hetfield, George Michael, Seal, Paul Young, Annie Lennox, Lisa Stansfield, Robert Plant, Joe Elliott, and Phil Collen, and Axl Rose and Slash.
Something wrong with the world today. The light bulbs.
1993, Aerosmith released Get a Grip, their 11th studio album, which became their best-selling album to date, with sales of over 20 million units. The album, which featured the hits Livin' on the Edge and Crazy, also featured guests Don Henley and Lenny Kravitz. 1996, English R&B singer Mark Morrison had his first UK #1 single when Return of the Mac started a 2-week run at the top of the charts. A #2 hit in the US, the beat was sampled from Tom Tom Club's Genius of Love. 2002, in the dispute over who owned the rights to Nirvana's recordings, former members Dave Grohl and Kirst Novoselic asked the Seattle court to prove that Courtney Love was mentally stable. They told the court that Love was irrational, mercurial, self-centered, unmanageable, inconsistent, and unpredictable. They also claimed a contract was invalid because Love was stoned at the time.
Just one glance. Oh well, you know.
In 2006, Baby Shambles singer Pete Doherty was arrested in East London on suspicion of drugs possession, only hours after a court appearance. Doherty had earlier admitted to 7 charges of possessing drugs when he appeared before magistrates in East London. He was given a community order with 2 years supervision, and 18 months drug rehabilitation, and was also banned from driving for 6 months. And in 2012, Bert Wheaton, whose Play in a Day guitar guide set some of the biggest names in rock and roll on the road to greatness, died at age 91. Play in a Day, released in 1957, sold over 2 million copies and helped inspire a generation of budding musicians including Eric Clapton, Brian May of Queen, and the late John Lennon.
Visit ClassicRockA2Z.com for the latest music news, and more.